melt is when I'm ocean waves.
Today on Nova Legends podcast, we're talking Georgetown University women's soccer with Emma Davis back again and Henley Tippins, who I'm meeting for the first time. Guys, thanks for joining me. Good to see you guys.
Yeah, good to see you too. Thank you for having us.
Sure.
Yeah, thanks for having me back on.
Oh, of course. Well, let me give you guys a quick bio. And Emma is the returning champion here. Emma is from Clinton, New York, which is not too far from Syracuse, small town. Went to Westminster High School, Princeton grad, and she was a captain at Princeton. Honorable mention All Ivy as a freshman, and had a great career there. Came to Georgetown as a graduate student, and this is her second year there. She's once again captain. Only scores big goals that make headlines. Every time she probably scores a goal, she probably checks her Instagram to see if I've messaged her. But today we're going to talk to Henley about working with Emma on her celebrations after she scores, since Henley scores so much. But anyway, yeah, Emma first made headlines, at least to me, when she hit a banger from like 35, 40 yards against St. John's last year on ESPN to win that game. So she won a game. She opened up scoring this weekend against number 2 Stanford with a great pass from Henley. Unfortunately, it wasn't a winning goal, but it was a great result, a 1-1 tie. So that's Emma. And Henley, who is, first of all, she's roommates with one of my favorite Yorktown players of all time, Shea Montgomery, who's also on the Georgetown team this year, a transfer from South Carolina. But Henley is from Atlanta, Georgia. Phenomenal high school career, Westminster High School, 2-time Gatorade Player of the Year, 2-time state champion. I believe her team was number 1 ranked nationally. Came to Georgetown, just set the place on fire at first. I think she got like 5 goals in the first 6 games that she played. Unfortunately, she got hurt. Don't want to focus on bad news, but I think Emma and Henley have a connection there, because I believe when I interviewed Emma last year, she mentioned there was a freshman that got hurt with a similar injury to what she had. And you guys had a connection, and then that connection kind of paid dividends when Henley assisted Emma on that goal last weekend. So anyway, I was taking pictures of one of your games this year, and I was not too far from where Henley was warming up with the assistant coach. And I remember she said to the coach, "I got a feeling I'm going to start scoring goals really soon." I think the next game she had a great nutmeg, and then a kind of a toe kick finish, kind of a futsal finish to score the opener. And then with this assist, I think she's back. So guys, did I get the biography right there?
Yeah,
definitely.
you nailed it.
Okay, good. I tend to exaggerate, so let me know if I went too far. Well, why don't we start with Emma? Emma, when we talked last year, you were talking about the transition to Georgetown. Now here you were, a captain at Princeton, firmly entrenched on a team, and you come to a brand new team, and you don't want to really step on toes, and you're coming off, I think, a knee injury, a different injury than we talked about before, but it took you some time to get acclimated. Well, now you're captain of a team, and I've never heard of a player being captain of 2 different teams, which is amazing. But is it been different this year, your second year with Georgetown, than it was last year?
Yeah, definitely. I think coming in last year, I didn't really know where I stood on the team, and there was definitely a patience that came with that unknown, kind of waiting to see, where do I fit in on this team? How do I fit in? How can I be a leader coming in as an older player, but never have, been with this team before? And I think, having those 2 years of eligibility made that leadership role a little bit more prominent, because we knew that I was going to be there in the spring when a lot of the seniors had graduated. And given we had some 5th years from the senior class that were staying as well. So, we kind of had this like leadership group that started forming in the spring and, continued to form into the fall. So I think this year, actually being a captain, is great. It's awesome. I love being in that role and kind of helping the team achieve all that we want to achieve. And I think, unfortunately, we've had some injuries. So I'm starting this year and have been lucky enough to sort of have a more prominent role on the team in terms of that. But, I think whether you're starting or non-starting, I think, my leadership and just my experience has been important to the team, and just excited to end on a high note.
Yeah. But one thing I didn't mention is Emma is a midfielder, plays the center defensive mid, the 6, and does a great job kind of enforcing the middle, not afraid to pick up a yellow card or 2. Hopefully not 2 in one game. But well, Henley, what about you? I know obviously with your resume, I'm sure you had a lot of options. Georgetown, Coach Dave Nolan was a great selection. So tell us a little bit about playing soccer in Atlanta, and then why you chose Georgetown.
Yeah, so I mean, I think Atlanta was such a nice place to grow up, especially as a youth soccer player. I was like 10 minutes from 3 different clubs that were consistently sending kids to, big schools. So the resources were always there. And I played at Top Hat for a while, a very well-known Atlanta club. And then I left voluntarily, and I was told I would never go to a Division I school. It was the worst decision I was making. And I left for this coach at Concord, which at the time was like a frowned upon club.
Why was it frowned upon?
Because at the time they weren't playing good soccer, but I always told people I was going to this individual coach, not to the club as a whole. The coach had just started coaching from privates to like possession, like 11-11. Anyway, so then flash forward 5 years, I was captain, and that coach and I won a national championship together my senior year. So it came full circle. It was so fun. I had the absolute best childhood club soccer experiences. And when it came time for recruiting, I did have the choice to go to a Division I school. They were wrong about that. But it was during COVID, so like visits were a little different. It was, I'm on campus, hey, I might run into somebody and whatever. And so the recruiting process was like slowed down because no one was in a hurry to do anything, which was nice. I got to know people. And then I know this is very common with Georgetown recruits, but getting to know Dave actually helped me lean towards Georgetown. He was my favorite coach in the recruiting process. And then I wanted to do either international business or foreign service stuff. So that kind of made a lot of sense. And ironically, I was telling Emma this, it came down to Princeton and Georgetown and UVA because my best friend was going there. So it made a lot of sense. I took my little tours, not even a visit, and I just felt at home here. So haven't looked back yet. And it was a very natural, easy process for me.
Yeah. Well, before we get back to the soccer a little bit, let's talk about Washington, D.C. So to me, in my mind, it's a great sports town. I grew up here. The Commanders, the Redskins had a long tradition. Bullets, Wizards. I guess our teams changed names a lot, but we have great college sports with Maryland, Georgetown. When I was growing up, the Hoyas basketball team came to prominence. That really put Georgetown on the map. It was like the blueprint of how sports could make a college even rise further into prominence. Like Duke did the same thing as well. But what is it like to play Division I soccer in Washington, D.C.? I would think it'd be amazing.
Yeah, and you want to get this one? Or you want me to?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I think, I think it's great. I think, as you said, we have so many sports teams here. And I mean, for me, just going to a small school in a small town and then, coming to Georgetown, where still a small school, but in a big city, definitely has a different feel to it. So it's been great. And yeah, I wouldn't change it.
Yeah. I think building off of that,
Yeah.
I think, I'm from a big city, so that wasn't much of an adjustment, but just like how accessible everything is in this specific city is crazy. Like, I know my friends would rather visit me than anybody else from my high school friend group because it's the coolest city to visit. I know teams want to play us because coaches love their kids getting that experience of coming to the nation's capital. And then also just the amount of times that I've showered after practice, gotten ready in 10 minutes and gone downtown for like a dinner or an event or anything like that. I just keep thinking to myself, like, this is not something you can do anywhere else. So I think it's really, really special, and it's not something that we ever forget. I'm constantly reminded. I'm like, wow, this is catch me,
Yeah. Well, Georgetown athletes, do they tend to socialize on campus with with Georgetown students and other athletes, or the colleges in DC? I went to University of Virginia, so we're kind of a college town. We're kind of stuck by ourselves. But in DC, do you guys socialize with the other colleges, or is it mostly a Georgetown social scene?
I think we will see other teams, but it's definitely, I wouldn't call it like a network. Like, I think we kind of each keep to ourselves because within the Georgetown community, we're really close, like the athlete teams, like the athletic teams and everything. So we don't really find ourselves like networking outside of that with other teams like GW or anything like that. But if we run into them, I think especially the kids who grew up here, they naturally have friends on those teams. So I'm sure that there's some overlap, but it's definitely not as much as you might think.
And for Emma, it might be a little different being a graduate student, or
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't really know anyone from other schools, so yeah,
yeah.
I kind of just stick to the grad students at Georgetown and my team.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about fitting into the team. Now, Emma, you mentioned being a graduate student and having like a leadership role. Is there? I mean, you're much older. We're not talking age here, but you're a little bit older than some of the kids. Is it?
They remind me constantly.
She's our grandmother.
Exactly. So, what is that like? I mean, when your college career, this is your 6th year. So
Mhm.
you were once where Henley was getting started. Henley's the 2nd year now, but now you're at least you're coming to an end of a college career. So what's it like to be kind of an older athlete at the school?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also different being a grad student. Some of the undergrads, when they want to get together and do things, I do my best to, be there and socialize with the team. But there's a big age difference. You have freshmen coming in who I'm 5, 6 years older than, so it's definitely a bit different and unique. But I absolutely adore the team, and I love hanging out with them on away trips, on the bus, in the hotel. I mean, I cherish every second of that because I know we have such a special bond that like I'm not gonna find like outside of college soccer when I'm done. So yeah, just taking in every moment. It's coming to an end, so just embracing it because I do cherish them so much.
Yeah. Well, last year the team was 15 wins, 2 losses, 5 ties, and you only lost to UVA and then Pitt in the tournament. This year off to a great start, 4 wins, 3 draws, no losses. So is the team much different? The personality is different. I mean, the success has been largely the same so far. Let's knock on wood that it continues. But what about the team, the personality, that kind of the culture? Do you see it being very similar? Henley, you want to start on this one?
Yeah, I mean, this is year 2, so I only have a 2-year thing to compare. I'm sure Emma can use her 6, but from what I've noticed, I think every team is always going to have its own personality and its own like unique dynamic. I do think that there's something special about this team that I'm not going to say it wasn't there last year, but that it's like very, very prominent this year. Like normally it's like, oh, we want to win the Big East and then we want to go as far as we can. But I think that there's like a winning culture this year that has been really emphasized. And I think Stanford, everyone was really buying in. And I think you can feel it differently among the girls. Personality wise, I mean, I don't know how this was from an outside perspective, but internally, I know my class was super outgoing as freshmen and like we just came in and were very loud. But this year's freshman class is a little bit quieter. So I think that's also its own dynamic too. But again, goes back to the point that every class and every year has its own personality.
Yeah. Emma, do you want to add to that, or?
Yeah, sure. I think like one of the challenges at the beginning of every year is you lose seniors and you have to redefine what your team is going to be. What is going to define who you are, what are your like core values and characteristics. And I think, as Henley touched on, there's definitely a winning mentality with this team. And I think just the game against Stanford, like the disappointment after tying the 2nd team in the country, says a lot about who we are and what we want to do this season. And I think the team would love to see them again later in the year. And I think that kind of get back what we feel like we lost last game. But we have to keep looking forward, and we have a big game coming up, and the Big East right around the corner. So I think we just have to keep looking forward and practicing hard and playing hard every time we step on the pitch.
Yeah, yeah. So I didn't get to see the Stanford game. I was on the way, and my daughter really wanted to go shopping, so I was following the game on the ticker, and I noticed Emma scored, and then Henley assisted. I was like, that's really cool, because of the injury connection. Before we get to that, though, a little bit more about the Stanford game. What did you guys know about them coming in? What was the game plan, and did the game kind of go according to plan?
Yeah, Hen, you want to start with this one?
Yeah. I think we all have a lot of, and a few of us actually like have girls we played against in club, or like friends that play over there. So we definitely in Stanford, like you can't just go in and be like, yeah, this is kind of a quiet team. Like we know Stanford, we know what they're about. They're a good team. We knew that they were gonna have good players across the board. But we also, I think we have a bad habit of sometimes we'll plan to change our style to meet good teams, even though we have our own style and our own identity. And I think the goal of this game, and that's something that happens naturally on every team. That's not to blame, but I think that we went into this game thinking we can hang with this team and we're going to make them play our style, and we're going to make them meet us because we're at home, we're at Shaw, we don't lose on Shaw, and so I think we just went in with the mentality that like we weren't expected to win that game. I don't think we get enough respect anyways to start with. So it was like, let's just go ruin their day, and let's go put our team on watch, and get a big result, because A, no one expects us to, and like B, Duke kind of helped us out. Duke got spanked 4-0 like the week before. So we're like, we have so much cushion and we have so much to just like go in, and like we have nothing to lose. Like let's just go like mess them up. So I think it was honestly a really calm, aggressive, nothing to fear mentality going in, and I think it really helped us.
Yeah. Emma, did you see it the same way, or?
Yeah, and I think, like I said, we ended up tying that game, but good teams find ways to win or tie games, and I think we were obviously really disappointed in that, and had we put another one away earlier, like we probably would have had them. But yeah, I think going in, we were just super confident with our ability and our skill. And as Henley said, we weren't going to change the way that we played. And yeah, I mean, overall, it was just a great team performance, and coming out with the tie was disappointing, but it just showed that we can hang with anyone, and we're ready to do that.
Yeah. Well, one thing that really impressed me is I came to the Virginia Tech game, and I felt they were the more dangerous team in the first half. And then you guys got one little opportunity, and I forgot the woman who scored. Was it Lardner?
It was Maya Lardner.
Yeah. I mean, it was such a great goal out of nowhere. And then as soon as you got up 1-0, and Henley was talking about the kind of the winning mentality, Julia is so awesome in the back. You have Emma at the 6, and you have, I forgot the other center back's name. And then Kara in the goals having an amazing start to the season. I just felt like you guys knew once you got up 1-0, that you guys were going to close the game down. And I don't think they were ever, after you scored, that dangerous. It's like the game changed, and at that point you controlled the game.
Yeah, I think that's like definitely something that we're like working on as a team. Some days like we come out a little bit slower, but I think piecing together that 90-minute game where we come out with fire and we end with fire is really important. And I think kind of same thing in the JMU game. Like we came out a little slow, and in the second half, we actually like physically covered more distance on like our catapults in the second half, which doesn't usually happen, but that just shows that we came back after halftime and we were like, let's go. Like we need to step up. And unfortunately we tied that game, but we had a lot of really great chances that we just need to put away.
Yeah. Well, Emma mentioned, I'm sorry, Henley, were you trying to get in?
No, totally agree.
Okay. Well, Emma mentioned Big East is coming. Do you guys prepare much differently for the Big East opponents than you would for Stanford, which is an amazing opportunity to play a top team? Or are all the games you prepare the same, or is it different when it's conference?
I actually, in practice, I don't really know because I was hurt for all of Big East last year, but I can say that like in terms of like the cold, the mood at practice and at film and all of these things, there's an intensity in season that like it's such a standard of our program that we will win the Big East, and that's our expectation, and like anything less is not acceptable. There's just an intensity that the minute we start Big East, Dave is more intense. Captain's coming more intense. I just remember thinking like, whoa, like we must start Big East this week. But I think like the preparation, it's the same set of girls, it's the same set of teams. But mostly it's just the intensity at practice. It's an intangible thing.
Yeah. What about you? Did you see it the same way over your career?
Yeah, I think the mentality definitely changes. Like Henley said, there's kind of like extra intensity kind of step up. And I think it's actually very comparable to the Ivy League. Once you get into that Ivy League, and prior to this year, the Ivy League didn't have a tournament. So every game matters so much. And it's similar in the Big East. Like we do have the tournament, but every game matters. And, letting one game go, like whether it's a loss or a tie, it makes a difference at the end of the season. So I think, in the back of your head going into every game and every training prior to that game that, okay, like we got to win this one and it's going to make a difference down the line. And I think that's kind of the intensity that changes compared to like Stanford, where you're going in as the underdog and you're like, hey, let's go win this game because we can, we need to win this game, and we can.
Yeah. Well, you guys got another big game this week. I know it's big for Emma. You're playing Princeton. Princeton is a perennial powerhouse in women's soccer, and men's soccer it's been over the years as well. So what do you got? What are you guys thinking about for the Princeton game? And Emma, how are you preparing for such a familiar game?
Yeah, I have mixed emotions about it. I'm so excited. I'm a little nervous. There's such an energy on campus when Princeton women's soccer has games, and they pull huge crowds from the community and the students. And I'm so familiar with that feeling. So being on the other side of it is definitely very strange. Super excited to play in their new stadium. I did not have the pleasure of playing in that when I was there as an undergrad. So that's going to be really special. I think the preparation is similar to a lot of the preseason games that we've had. We know it's going to be a hard game. We know that they're going to come out swinging, and they have some dangerous players. So how can we, again, play our game and not change who we are, but just go out there and battle because, we know it's going to be a good game.
Yeah. Henley, you have to be excited because you're scoring goals. You're getting into the mix. So this is another opportunity for you to put some in the back of the net.
Yeah, no, I feel like I'm in a pretty good place. I feel like it's starting to be more consistent and require less emotional energy to play well. So I'm excited for more games. I think Princeton specifically is an interesting opponent because of just like it feels like a rivalry because of Emma and Grace. And I know that there are so many recruits that overlap between Princeton and Georgetown. I know that they have a few Dave would have loved to have. I think Princeton, we have a few that they would have loved to have. And so I think that's not going to be overlooked. And it's just going to be an emotional, passionate game. And the good news is we're not an overly emotional team. We're not rah-rah. We're super calm. And so I think it's going to be important that we really stick to that side of us and not buy into it, even though it's going to be difficult. But no, I mean, they have quality players. They're well coached. I know the stadium is supposed to be absolutely off the charts. So I'm excited to play at that atmosphere. I just think it's going to be a good game. Like, I know one of our captains said, it might have been Ali Auger, was just like, hey, we just tied Stanford, but I don't think any of us realized that Princeton's going to be as hard, if not harder, a game because of the atmosphere and the circumstances. So it's definitely all hands on deck, and we got to start preparing and getting ready.
Yeah. What's interesting is that our Hoya men's team is actually going to be at the game as well. So we're going to have, fans from all over that are coming to watch this game. So the atmosphere is definitely going to be one for the books.
Yeah. Definitely. Hopefully the live stream is on for this game. So let's talk a little bit about coming off injury. Now Henley, as we mentioned earlier, you set the world on fire when you first came to Georgetown. It was like you were never going to stop scoring goals, and you got hurt. I know Emma's injury was her third year. I think was it after COVID? Emma, was it before COVID? Did you got hurt?
Before, yeah. So second year and then third year was COVID.
COVID. That's right. So talk a little bit about, when you're playing well and you get hurt. And when my son and I went over to Holland for one of those soccer tours, and I remember I was talking to a guy named Coach Yannick, and he said that one of the most important things for a soccer player's development is being lucky enough to be healthy, because when you get hurt, it really can affect your morale. You see folks around you that are playing and getting experiences, and you have to not only train and rehabilitate, but you have to keep your morale up, and you have to be able to kind of stay with the team and to do what they're doing and keep going what's going on and keep believing in yourself. So maybe speak a little bit about coming off injury and being able to get yourself back up to a very high level again.
Yeah, I mean, to start with, I'd never been hurt before. I'd had a concussion for like 3 weeks when I was in like my freshman year of high school. So this was a completely new test, and I don't think I really knew what I was getting myself into when I found out the results of, that x-ray. But I think a coach told me during the recruiting process, go somewhere where, if God forbid you got hurt, you would still love where you are and who you're with. And I think I was like, yeah, like that'd be awesome for people that actually get hurt, not me, and whatever. And then I'm glad I listened, because there was never a moment where it was difficult to support, from the bench, or where like travel days, like I was always able to like still buy into what we were doing, because the culture here is so special and I love the girls so much. And the school. So I was like able to stay well-rounded even when that part of my soccer identity was taken out, which I appreciate. I think on the field, I don't know, I kind of came into like college soccer thinking, well, I scored a goal a game in club. It's like basically all club players that have just gotten older. Like, so my expectation was just so naive. And I think honestly it was for the better. I just came out, I was like, I'm a freshman. No one really expects or can expect a freshman to do a lot. So anything you do is for the better, and just like relax and score. And I was just, once you get confident, it's a snowball effect. And so I think what was hard was coming back, like trying to replicate that while also being matured by like the college soccer differences. Because you're not a freshman anymore, like and so I think coming back and not comparing was my hardest challenge, because I am a very self-critical person, and because scoring normally comes very naturally to me. And I think what really helped me was Dave always breaks my game into two parts, like my post-up play and my goal scoring, like in the box and outside the box. And I honestly was not impressed by my out-of-the-box play last year. I think I was just kind of covered up by the fact that I was scoring a lot. So my biggest way of focusing was, I was like, well, I'm going to be the better post-up player than I was last year. You know what I mean? So I'm going to work on that, and then the goals will come eventually, or the assists will come eventually. And there's days where you're like, am I doing this right? Like, I think I'm never going to score another goal again in my life. Have I seen my last goal? So that's why Rutgers was a lot of weight off my shoulder, thinking like, okay, you know what? You're holding up the ball better than you were last year. And then now maybe we start scoring. So I think it was a long process. I really did think I had scored my last goal in my life. I was telling my parents, but I think it's coming back. And I think it was just important to like lean on the people around me. I was really blessed to have, Emma, the captains, my class is super close. And so I think I'm better because of it. I think everyone gets injured at some point. It was unrealistic for me to go through college and everything and not get hurt. So I'm glad it happened early. I hope it doesn't happen again. But if it does, at least I'm better prepared, and I think it made me a stronger player on and off the field. So it was hard though.
Well, what did it feel like when you scored that first goal? Now, you made it look easy, but it's not often you see someone, is it nutmeg or pana or whatever, in the area, and then toe poke. It was an awesome goal. You made it look so easy that people probably saw like, oh, she scored a goal. No, that was a very hard goal to score. What was the feeling? after you scored the goal, it must have been just a tremendous weight off your back.
Yeah, it was a big sigh of relief. I was like, okay, now we can relax. Now we can now we can get used to this and make this a habit again. And you know how to do it. It's in there somewhere. If you can score that, then you can score a tap in, because I'd missed a tap in earlier in the game.
Oh,
So I was like, well, if I just missed that, I need to go do something crazy or something or score. So I think just like scoring that and scoring a goal like that, where it was complete intuition, I was like, it's all in there. So you're gonna be okay. It was just relieving.
yeah. Well, Emma, unlike Henley, your injury led to a 2-year gap in your career, and so when you're almost graduated from college again, and you have to be wondering, are they ever going to bring soccer? Am I ever going to play again? So tell us a little bit about your 2 years off and getting back to a very high level.
Yeah, I think after after my sophomore year, after being sent home, I was training so hard in preparation for that junior season. And with COVID, it was really unknown. We didn't know when we were going back. We didn't know if we were going back, but I held on to hope like you wouldn't believe. And I was in California at the time working, and every morning I was waking up at 6:30 and training before I went to work. And I was extremely dedicated. And when they told us that we weren't going back for that junior season, I don't think I worked out for like 2 weeks. I was like so sad. I was like really, really upset. I was like coming off the injury. I was ready to get back at it. So yeah, I think there was so much like pent up energy going into senior year that we had a great season. And unfortunately, we didn't win the Ivy, but we were close. But I think there are silver linings in everything. And had we not lost that junior year because of COVID, I don't know if I would have come to Georgetown. Having just 1 year of eligibility, I might have decided to stay at Princeton. But having those 2 years, I couldn't do it at an Ivy League. So I kind of knew that Georgetown was the one place that I really wanted to go. And luckily it worked out that way. But yeah, I mean, I feel for Henley, and I think she did such an amazing job handling herself mentally, because that's the hardest part. Coming back, like, am I going to be the same player that I was before? And I think I didn't struggle with that quite as much because there was such a long gap between getting injured and coming back and playing. But yeah, I mean, we had talks like when she was coming back and she was having doubts about who she was as a player and how she was playing. And I just kept saying, like, be patient with yourself, give yourself time. It's a process. And, now she's back and scoring goals, and couldn't be happier for her.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Well, let's talk about the goal from last weekend against Stanford. The thing about this is another goal that it looked much easier than it was, because Emma, you hit the ticket first touch and you put it right perfectly in the corner. Sometimes the goalie can't see right there, but even if she could see that one, she couldn't have saved it. So first of all, tell us about the goal, but also did you guys was a connection that you guys have both been hurt, and in Henley's pass led to Emma's goal? Was that lost on you at all? Because right away, that's the first thing I thought about. I was like, that's interesting. That was Henley to Emma.
Yeah, I mean, I just think. Oh, go ahead.
You start. No, go ahead.
Okay, I just think. I mean, the goal was awesome. I think it was something that both of us. I can't speak for both of us, but I assume it was kind of just like second nature for both of us. I kind of don't think about what I'm doing until the play is over. I'm like, oh, that wasn't, that didn't suck. So I think the situation also, just like it was Stanford at home, it was early in the game. We were just like fired up. I think in terms of like Emma and I specifically, like, I don't know, we're close, and she was like the fifth year I leaned on a lot. And like, I guess because of the injury, to your point, like an extra amount, and I needed a little bit extra last year. And so I think there's always that underlying bond. And I think whether we're thinking in the moment, oh, like injury or not, I don't know, but you're definitely thinking, like, this is one of my best friends and we just scored against Stanford together. And it was a good, rewarding feeling that was long overdue. So I think there was definitely, she's one of my favorite people to assist to. I guess that's how I'd put it.
Yeah, it was an amazing moment. How about you, Emma? Was that moment lost on you? Was just a goal to you, or?
No, it definitely wasn't just a goal. I mean, honestly, after watching it back, I was like, I really didn't do that much. I hit it one time. I don't even think I looked at the goal, but I don't know how Henley got the ball to me, but when she made that pass, I was like, well, I have to get there because she just like played it through two players in the box. So I don't even know how that happened. But no, it was an incredible moment and so great to have Henley assist me for the first time. So hopefully there's more of that to come. Would love to have that happen again.
No, I'm sure.
You did not do nothing. It was you had to step back and turn your hips. That's a goal that lots of people miss, especially with that pressure.
Exactly. Henley, we can pause for a second. Did you want to get to a better place?
No, it's okay. I'm just walking down the hall.
Okay.
Your favorite player kicked me out of the room.
Well, look. So that great goal again. Oh, real quickly before we get to future goals and stuff, Henley, can we work with Emma on some kind of goal celebration or some kind of something after she scores? Or it's always going to be like a look of relief and shock. I just scored.
Yeah, I'll get on that. We'll just stay after practice today and get some extra celebration reps in.
Exactly. Well, look. So, what about what's next? What do you guys future goals in soccer, maybe college soccer, or maybe the next level and beyond? I know Emma, that you're coming to you're into your 6th year. I know you're getting a graduate degree in integrated marketing, and you have a public international affairs background. So, what are you thinking about the rest of the season and then beyond?
Yeah, I think I love soccer and it has shaped my entire life. It's given me amazing opportunities. At this point, I have some job opportunities lined up for when I'm done here. And I think I'm really excited about those and, want to see where those take me. Like I said, I've loved soccer and every bit of it, but at this point in time, I don't know if my body can take any more of what I've put it through. I have a huge like black and blue ankle right now and, bruises everywhere. So I think ending on a high note and just, reflecting on my entire career, it's been absolutely incredible, but excited to take on a new adventure.
And will you stay in the game in some regard? You think you ever coach, or will you be involved in some way in soccer?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to be involved. I mean, I don't know exactly what that looks like at this point, but being a part of a team or, being closely affiliated with a team is kind of ingrained in me. So I think it will shape itself in some way in the near future. And I just have to figure out what that looks like, but definitely want to stay involved in the game, whether that's like a club league or whatever it is post grad. But yeah, definitely want to keep playing to some extent.
Oh, that's great. Well, what about you, Henley? So I know graduation's a long way off, but you have lots of goals yet to score and lots of games to win. What are some of your personal goals at Georgetown? And are you the kind of player? Do you ever think about playing at the next level? Obviously, you have the talent.
No, I appreciate that. I think so I'm definitely a planner. I think it's better to overplan than underplan, and if you don't need it, so what? So I think it's definitely something I've thought about. I think that graduating with a Georgetown degree is so tricky. It's like a blessing, but it's also you have so many things you could go do. It's almost like overwhelming, and I'm sure Emma felt the same way about Princeton. I definitely, I mean, I'll end up taking a 5th year. I think I've pretty much decided that. I don't know where it'll be, but I definitely want to look into taking a 5th year and like extending my degree. And I would love to go play a few years, whether it be abroad or here. I'm not sure yet. I'm an international business major, so I think the idea of having the international language and experience abroad is not something to look past. So I'm definitely interested in that. I don't know how my body's going to feel after 5 years of college soccer, but if it's permitting, I would love to play after. And after that, I definitely want to go into a business career. Both my parents, I grew up watching them, and I think it teaches you a lot about leadership. And I think honestly, both have done too much hard school to not go, use it. So I think both of those. I don't know how long my soccer career would last after school, but definitely for a few years. But I mean, in terms of on the team, my goals and just with my college career, you have I want to score X amount of goals. You have your I want X award in conference and out of conference and all these nominations. But I think the overarching goal for me is like, I think soccer can just teach you so much about bigger lifelong macro things. And I want to take on a leadership role, um, and learn as much about leading people and relationship building with this sport as I possibly can. And I think if I do that, and I think, um, I'm blessed enough to have the talent where I think if I am being a good teammate and I'm taking on leadership roles at a young age, and I think if I just keep working hard, I think that the other stuff will come. And those are kind of, I keep them close and I don't really publicize all of them, but they're there. And I just want to focus on what I can control, which is, my impact on the program on and off the field, and how good of a leader I am. So it's the biggest one for me.
Well, it's interesting because I think the lessons that you learn in soccer, like so my son, played at Georgetown with Shay, the same school, same year, and he didn't play in college. But I always remind him, the pressure that you deal with as a soccer player, those touches when you have to get rid of the ball real quickly, or you'll lose the ball in front of the goal and the other team scores. You miss the tap in the other day. There's so many things in soccer that you have to deal with, the pressure of it, the preparation. I think those lessons will serve you, your whole life. Soccer is a game of, it's just so much pressure. I played basketball and football, and I don't feel like the pressure of those sports compares to soccer, even though I love those sports as well. But anyway, look, guys, it's been great. You guys are totally making me Georgetown fans. So I look forward to following the team the rest of the year, and hopefully if Emma scores another screamer, or if Henley gets that hat trick, maybe I can get you guys back on. And I got to have Shay on. Shay's probably one of my most appeared guests in the history of my podcast, and though Emma's catching up to her. But look, I really appreciate you guys taking the time, and it's been great talking to you.
No, thank you so much. We'll definitely be back.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us.
Of course. Be in touch, guys. Thanks again.